Hello and welcome to Real People, Real Lives. I'm Sandy. On this show, we explore the stories of everyday people, their struggles, successes, and the experiences that make them unique. Each episode brings you a fresh perspective from someone with a story to tell. Let's jump in. Ron Klopfanstein is a multimedia journalist, an educator, radio host, and he's also a chronic fatigue syndrome survivor. Ron hosts Hot Seat Media Monday on 95.9 FM The Heat, where he shares local stories and gives voice to our community. His work is guided by a love of connection and a belief in the power of meaningful storytelling. Ron and I go way back to my days in radio doing mornings, and he is just one of the coolest guys that I know, and I'm so honored to have him here with me today. Ron, welcome to Real People, Real Lives. Tell me a little bit about you and growing up and what your life was like.
Well, I grew up in Westmoreland, and actually that's where I still live. And it was kind of just a regular rural existence. But, I think my life was hard because, I was bullied a lot all through school. I was overweight. I was fat. I was gay in the closet, obviously, and also I stuttered. And it's interesting. I think that experience, it did a lot of damage to me. It did a lot of harm, but in some ways my life now is kind of a reaction to that in a good way, both as a teacher and as a journalist.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I don't think that people today, bullying is a big deal. Like people are always talking about bullying. But back in our time, not that we're that old, but back in our time, Nobody cared. It was just part of life, really, unless it became physical and really, something escalated. But for the most, I was bullied. I was a fat kid. I was bullied, and it shaped who I became, at least in the early part of my life.
It did with me, too. I would say even now, it shaped who I became overall. So I think in good ways, but also in a lot of bad ways, too. The harm is very real.
Yeah, even today I struggle with body image and, it's just a really tough thing. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. It sort of sets the tone for the rest of your life. So let me ask you this then. When did you come out and say, I'm gay?
Well, that took me a long time. And actually, it was when I was in my early 20s and I was in college. And the way that I did it was, I went to a therapist who helped me with that. And the way that I actually did it publicly was in the Observer Dispatch. So it was kind of like, the difficult thing with coming out is, you have to do it over and over again. But for me, I did it publicly. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. The scariest night of my life. Yep.
I can imagine.
Thank you. Thanks. 1991.
Wow.
A while ago. Yeah.
And that was at a time when there was so much going on we refer to it as the LGBTQ plus community, but back then it was just the gay community. And there was so much going on there. It was sort of the AIDS era, and it was scary.
It was still, totally into the AIDS era. It was just past the 80s, but the stigma was still there. And we didn't have even non-discrimination rights in New York State. They hadn't even passed laws to protect us from that. Obviously, there was no marriage equality. So it was we definitely were second-class citizens at that time. And it was also at that time, too, was when everybody read the Utica Observer Dispatch. So that Saturday night into Sunday morning, I'll just never forget that, how scary that night was. But then, it came out on Sunday morning and I was up, I think it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. Back then they would deliver paper. I mean, they still do, but I don't know when they get around to it nowadays. But back then the paper would come at sunrise or, before sunrise. And I remember waiting for it and opening it up and, the paper was this thick. It was really thick back then. And went to the op-ed page and there it was. And then my life changed.
Did you feel a sense of relief or fear?
Yes.
Or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. Wow.
It was exhilarating, but terrifying.
I applaud you for that so much, because it doesn't matter what the topic is in your life. It takes so much courage to sometimes publicly state something about yourself. So that's just amazing to me. So I applaud you.
everything was easier.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nothing will ever be that hard again.
Oh my God.
So it's good to do your hardest thing when you're like 21, do your thing that takes the most courage you're ever going to have to do. And after that, you can do things. And
I can't even imagine. So now you're married. You've been married for several years now.
We have. Yeah. We got married during COVID.
Oh my, that's right. I remember that.
It was like, I'm someone who makes lemonade out of lemons. So when the order came down from Cuomo that you can only have 50 people at a gathering, the thing with getting married is like, it's so, so expensive. Yeah. So as soon as that happened, I said to Jim, oh my gosh, this is our opportunity. Because, I know so many people and from media, so many people and my cousins and stuff. And I thought, how do you ever decide who to invite and stuff? And weddings are things I really don't like neither of us, because we're both guys. We really couldn't care less.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when it came out with 50 people, I was like, this is our chance. So we did it in my mother's yard, and we only had to get 50 chairs and not much food, and we did it within 3 days, and it's like, bam, it was done. So
it was fantastic. And you're right. This is our, because I am an introvert.
Yeah.
And I am an empath. And so I am always soaking up. And I've always been the kind of person that I could talk in front of a crowd of 500, but it's hard for me to be around a crowd of 500. I don't want that many. I don't want that stress. Right. So I think that's so cool. So cool.
And I'm not into the romance stuff, we just wanted to get it done. So we did it under sumac tree, because sumac trees are my favorite trees. I'm a country boy. And so it was really hard to get a cake because we had to get a gluten-free cake. So we ended up with one that was just for the two of us, but then there was a normal cake for everybody else. But it was and it was elite. Well, I did all the PR for the wedding. So that was my interest, because I was a lot more into the PR than the romance stuff. So it was the lead story on News Channel 2 that night. And of course, I wrote stuff for the Sentinel back then. So there's a big story in the Sentinel about it. So it was really great.
I love that. I just love that. I remember seeing the pictures and just smiling.
It was on Facebook Live too. I know. Yeah, if you watched it Facebook Live, and it was on YouTube, and it was.
but it's out of the way now. Now you guys are just living life and loving life and everything. So, but you also told me something that I wasn't aware of, that you suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was really, I think that actually probably was the turning point in my entire life, because I was 34 and I was working full time. I was a disability rights advocate at RCIL, and I was teaching adjuncting at MVCC. And I had a nonprofit organization called Planet Utica, a new TV show. And I was getting my doctorate. I was almost done with my doctorate. And then this one night, what happened, I was going to the job at MVCC, and it's sometimes with chronic fatigue, with sudden onset, people have hallucinations. And I went into the class, opened my book bag, did not see the book, my textbook, that I needed the book. So then I went back to the car to see. I almost left the book in the car. It wasn't in the car. So I came back to the classroom, opened the book bag again. There was the book. But then I was getting profoundly, I was going from perfectly normal to full blown flu within minutes. I could feel myself getting sicker and sicker. So I thought I was going to die. So I went home and I said to Jim, we got to get me to an emergency room. And usually I'm not that, I don't want to go to hospitals and stuff. But I was I really think I'm going to die. So I got to the emergency room. I told the staff. It was November, and it was packed, and it was all this mud and slush on the floor. It was wintertime, the snow. And I said to the people that worked there, you don't have to help me now, but you got to give me something I can lay down, or I will lay down in this slush on the floor, because I was that sick. So they got me a bed. I projectile vomited, and then they thought it was a migraine, so they gave me migraine medicine, sent me home. But within 2 months, I was completely had quit all my jobs. I was disability, dropped out of college, and then I spent 10 years in bed. During that time, I traveled to get help. I was in a study at Georgetown University. They did a spinal tap. They found some problems with the cerebral spinal fluid pressure and with proteins in the spinal fluid, but they still don't know what causes CFS. The theory that that doctor had, which it makes kind of sense to me, is that it could be related to aspartame. And when aspartame gets really hot and it can break down. So I still do drink some Diet Coke, but the theory was, because there was a there's a thing called Gulf War syndrome that was an epidemic at the time. And they were thinking that was caused by literally literally Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi being sent to Iraq overseas for our troops. During the transport, it would get really hot. Then they get there, then they put it in the refrigerator. But the theory is that like the heating down breaks the NutraSweet up, So, I mean, that was one thing. So I did all this stuff, long story short, but I was so sick that at one time the doctor wanted to institutionalize me because he thought it was early onset Alzheimer's, like a Lewy body dementia thing. That was like my low point. Then he did do a test and found that I had a problem with gluten. So, one thing, I got home, I wasn't institutionalized. I came home and he said, like, for exercise, try to walk for 3 minutes every other day. So that was my first thing. And I also at the time too was you get so sick that you can't sit upright because your body can't pump blood up to your head. So if you sit up, you feel like you're going to pass out. Sitting up is this great exertion. So I had to exercise. My exercise was I was watching Downton Abbey, and Downton Abbey has kind of short scenes, right? So I would like watch one scene laying down, and then one scene sitting up, and then one scene laying down, and I would be, seeing stars. Things would be going black, about to pass out. But then gradually, I could get through a whole scene without that seeing stars, and I could watch 2 scenes, and then before we know it, I could watch a whole episode upright.
I'm fascinated by this. And so that helped to bring you back. And how long has it been since that time period in your life?
So let's see. So that was like about 10 years into chronic fatigue. And that took like a few years of that. And then it also was on, like, at the time when you had chronic fatigue, and when you had that diagnosis in the early 2000s, what the doctors would do, and I had a psychiatrist who could, like, psychiatrists can prescribe whatever they want. They're like the last doctors that can do all that. So they put me on antidepressants, they put me on stimulants, they put me on depressant sleeping pills, they put me on Lortab. So I had 10 years on opioids. I had to get off those too. So first I had to recover enough to like sit upright and not pass out. Then I had to recover enough so that once I could walk 3 minutes within the house, the rest of the 48 hours during those two days, I'd be in bed, except maybe watching TV up and down. Then I had to work on, like, when we bought a treadmill, and I worked on like doing 1 minute a day, every day, and then 2 minutes every day, and then 3 minutes. So very gradually worked my way up.
What an amazing story. And so then let's talk about today. Where are you today?
Yeah.
Tell me about what's going on in your life today and how everything that you've been through in your life has kind of formed where you are today.
In some ways, like, you go through an experience like that, and it does like reset things. So like a lot of the past, the bullying and stuff that we talked about, I think it did harm to me that I can't really like even articulate or really totally understand. But you do forget about all this stuff. And like that experience of being sick, because so many years of just being in bed and staring up at the ceiling, there were times when I took all my effort just to watch As the World Turns for an hour a day, like just to watch one show, like took everything I had just to watch one show. So I actually couldn't even watch TV the other 23 hours a day because that was too much. Like, it was too hard to like look at a screen and hear noise at the same time.
Sure.
So you start from scratch your whole life. But little by little, then I was starting to get a little bit better, tiny bit better. Then before you know it, I'm like fully sitting up and watching TV and I can walk around the house and go to stores and stuff. So then I wanted to go back to work. I wanted to at one time to be a college professor, but then I thought, the odds of that are lower and I needed something more practical, and I love to teach. So then I wanted to teach high school. But to do that, I had to get a whole other master's degree. I could teach college. I had taught that, and I had an English master's degree, but it wasn't enough. So I had to go back to college, get another degree, but I did that. Then when I was doing that, I never thought about media at the time because it was just like being able to like get out of the house was a miracle. So I ended up joining the Westmoreland Historical Society. And in doing so, I did like the PR for them. So I put a lot of effort into my press releases. That got me out there to go do media and thing. And I did Talk of the Town, and I did Bill Keeler's show and all those shows. And then from that, the Sentinel was impressed by my press releases. So when they were starting a new newspaper called the Clinton Record, Record, they offered me a column. At first I was like, oh my God, I thought it'd be too much work, you know? So I was like, how about can I do it once a month? And they're like, no, not once a month. It's got to be at least every other week. And I did agree to that. And then before I knew it, I loved it, like did it every week. And I was so into it. And then after a few years of that, the Clinton Record folded, but then I was in the Daily Sentinel, the Sunday one. Then I wanted to like expand more, to do like long, big pieces, investigative stuff. So then I moved into that at Utica Phoenix Media. I was a guest on the talk show Hot Seat, which is a Monday through Thursday show. Then I was a guest like every other week on Mondays. So then the owner of the station, Cassandra Harris Lockwood, said, you wanted to just do your own show on Mondays? Instantly, in my head, the name Media Monday came to me. But I was terrified because it's a big difference to be a host and a guest if you stutter. Because if you're a guest, you don't necessarily have to like identify this person or say this name. If you're a host, there's things you got to say. And so it was really terrifying because of my speech impediment. And at first, it was really hard. And I wasn't that great at it at first. And I tried doing it like it was radio. I thought radio got to be, these are the hottest hits all night long. So I tried talking like that. And I tried to open the show with like headlines of arts and entertainment news, like local, like kind of like an Entertainment Tonight. But I was kind of reading like this group is doing this and this art center has this. And that was just like torture. I just couldn't do it. It was so excruciating to get through that first few minutes of that. So I stopped doing that. It was still a problem, the stuttering, but little by little, I started to realize that actually I don't need to think of it as radio. I need to think of it as podcast. In a podcast, people talk a lot slower, a lot lower. And so I started to think of it like talk like that. And then I started to apply that podcasting voice, manner of speaking, to my whole life. And it's like it has slowed me down in my normal speaking. It's much better. So like the thing I was most afraid of, just kind of like giving it a shot and steering into it, like it made me better in so many ways.
It's really amazing because I have to say, if I didn't know that you had a stutter, I would never, ever have a clue.
People say that a lot.
Yes.
I work on it so much. There's like YouTube videos that I watch, but like I work every week. I practice every week, Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't realize like how much effort I have to put in just to sound normal.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular podcast, because I think that it's so important to tell everyone's stories and give people a perspective on other lives. We get so wrapped up in our own lives and we don't realize the struggles that other people have gone through or are still going through in their lives.
Right.
And I think it's important that we appreciate the work that they do to overcome those hurdles. So that leaves me with one more question for you. If you were speaking to someone who has difficulties in their life, challenges that they're trying to overcome, what one or two sentences would you tell them? What kind of advice just to keep them going?
I would say, number one, go easy on yourself. And then number two, start to like yourself. Get used to yourself. One thing that's been good for me too is like with the radio show and the podcast, one thing about a year ago, I think I've like evolved into is doing these video stories, these feature stories. So I have to listen to myself all the time. I edit myself all the time. Like, and it's funny because I joke about like, I think I'm like my favorite actor now because I'm the person I see the most like in media, but like, it's such a good thing. So you get so used to yourself and like you get so like you go easier on yourself the more you see yourself. And I think too, like especially if it's a speaking thing, the more you hear yourself talk, the more you hear yourself slow down, like that improves that. But the thing is just never give up. And also like if there's something you want to do in life, just go for it. Don't like wait for permission and stuff. Just like do it. Honestly, you have a phone. You can do whatever you want with your phone. You can make videos. You can use social media for bad. So use it for good, Right. Find something that you like and take a picture of that and like write a sentence about how great this place was. And you'll see like the positive power of media. Whenever I see people like get negative on social media and stuff, I think, my gosh, you have no idea like what an amazing experience you would have if you just did it the opposite. what you do now.
Right. Give in and actually enjoy your life and do the things you want to do. I remember growing up and people would say, oh, you only live once. And I used to kind of laugh at that and like, ha, ha, ha. Well, that was when I was young. Now I'm starting to realize it. And
it's true. Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing the things that make me happy.
Live your life.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. All right. At the end of each episode, I always ask my guests 5 rapid fire questions.
Oh, I love those.
All right. If you could interview anyone, past or present, who would it be?
I think about this almost every day. Barbara Walters.
Oh,
yes. My hero. You know?
Yes.
And I identify with her career in so many ways because she had to fight to be taken seriously. And, you know, I've been in the media for a long time, since 1991. And one of the things that I've noticed, and like over the past 3 years, because of GLP-1s, I've lost a lot of weight. And I've noticed that people treat you so differently when you're thinner. And it's like, like one thing that I've always had to fight in my media career, when I was a guest on other shows, is that the media paints you as sort of like, if you're overweight, for one thing, the media paints you as sort of comic. If you stutter, that's the media is likely to kind of, people in the media, just like the public naturally kind of thinks that that's a comic thing too. It's
a stigma that is really, truly harmful. It really is in any walk of life.
Exactly. And then like if you're gay too. So I had like these, I always had to fight to be taken seriously and respected, and that she had her whole life. So I identify with that. I also identify with the fact that she had a speech impediment and people made fun of that impediment, but didn't stop her. Plus her accomplishments.
Mountains or beach?
Actually, neither one. I'm the kind of person who literally cannot relax. It's actually like my husband and I talk about, like if we go on vacation, I'm going to do a feature story. Like, you know, I have to do it. Sorry, I just have to. But he's the same way. Like, there's no way I could, like, I would love to walk on a beach. Yeah. I would walk on the beach and I would like maybe not walk up the mountain, but I'd walk once I'm up there. So
I gotcha.
But my happy place is in the media, on the air.
I love it. All right. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh, it's always funny. That's another funny question. More complicated than you would think, because my entire diet is different than it was my whole life. Because I've been taking this Zepbound stuff, Mounjaro, since been taking it now for 3.5 years. And it was interesting because I was just saying to my husband, I got through the whole Easter season without a piece of candy. I got through Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter. Candy, I never eat it. My comfort food was Doritos. Now I just can't take them. Now I can say my comfort food is apples.
I love that. I'm a big fruit person. That probably sounds weird, but I'm a big fruit person.
What this stuff has done for me, because my whole life I struggled with my weight. I'm a very driven, determined person. I did everything right, but it just wasn't enough. And with these shots, I still do everything right, and I avoid, sugar and stuff because it would make me want more of it. I'm sensible, but it gives me the edge where I can succeed.
I just love that. All right, morning person or night person before we wrap up?
Oh, I was always a night person, and I still am a night person, but I'm now, because I can barely sleep and I'm older, I'm a morning person too. So I can sleep maybe from like 1 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm morning and night now.
Ron, I have learned so much today, and I feel like this just really strengthens my idea that we're all really alike. We all have challenges in our lives, and we all overcome them, and we work hard. We strive to make things better, not only for ourselves, but for each other, and you're a great example of that. So I appreciate you coming on today.
It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Real People, Real Lives. If today's story resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and leave a review so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, every person has a story worth hearing. Until next time, take care.